Hey nerds, Todd Simmons coming back at you with some more Toddomation. So now that we've got everything in VS Code, as far as our remote repository is now a local repository, let's just make sure that we're where we want to be with it open. So I'm going to start the video a little before where we left off last time. I just want to make sure that you understand how to open that local repository now. So once you get your VS Code open and installed, you just click on this source control here. We're going to open a folder. I'm going to go into my GitHub folder where all my stuff is. I'm going to open up the C Lab demos. Now, you'll see that I have all of my files here. So the next step that we want to start going through is getting ready to use Codespaces. Now, Codespaces is just compute resources, or it lends you time on a server, and then on that server we're going to run a particular file that's this dev container JSON, which is actually going to set up our Docker system. And I'm not going to get into Dockers, but other than just to say that a Docker image is a virtual image that can be run on virtual servers or bare bone systems that have, Docker running on it. So we're going to create those Dockers, and those Dockers specifically is going to be CEOS Docker that's going to run on Container Lab. Now, I know that was a lot, so I want to back up just a little bit. We have to run it online because Codespaces is online. Now, we can see it from here. And when I say from here, I mean your VS Code, but there are a couple of things that we're going to need to do, and there's integration, and that's why I'm breaking up these videos into many different steps to make sure that it's not too long or you don't miss something. So the next part of the integration that we want to do to be able to see our Codespaces within VS Code is we want to install a little program, and it's the GitHub CLI. And if you haven't used it before, no worries. I'm going to walk you through it, but we do need to install it. Okay. So what we want to do from our VS Code is we're going to go terminal. And from terminal, we're going to create a new terminal. And terminal, this is just CLI stuff. Okay. We're going to install the GitHub CLI from our terminal. Now, obviously, I'm on a MacBook Pro, and there's a couple of ways to do this. The easiest way to do it from terminal on a Mac is just to use something called brew. Okay. And brew, and I'm just going to show you the page here, is very, very simple. It's just brew install G8. So that's what I'm going to run. Or you can download it, but it's just easier to do the brew install, quite frankly. So if you don't have a Mac, and a lot of you are still running Windows, not a problem. There are some commands that you can do directly from PowerShell that will install it for you. If you want instructions, I would just do GHCLI install Windows. Now, when I click on this link, it's going to bring this page up because it's going to recognize my browser, and it's going to report that I have a Mac, and it's going to give me this information for a Mac. That's why I'm showing this to you here. So if you're going to install it on a Windows system, you can do it from the CLI, and more specifically, the PowerShell with the winget program. So if you did winget install --ID space GitHub CLI, and let me actually just put that in this window so you can see some examples. And here's the winget run, and here's the actual code, right? The G and the H, you'll want to capitalize those. That would work from a Windows box, is the winget install from PowerShell, just to make sure that you've got access rights to PowerShell. If you're on a Ubuntu or a Debian system, it would just be sudo apt update and sudo apt install gh space -y. And I'm going to put that in a different window here. Okay. This is going to bring me to my Mac if I click on it. But there's a bunch of different pages here. So just sudo apt update and right, this is going to run, it's going to update it. After it does the update, then it's going to actually do the install. You do the update on Linux just to make sure that you have the most current list of apps from apt. Anyway, that will get GH installed for you. Now, I'm actually going to install it on the Mac so everybody can see what it looks like. So I'm going to do brew, which is, short for homebrew. Okay, now it says I'm up to date, so I must have it. If I didn't have it, it would have run it. And to be honest, I just ran it. I'd make sure that was good for the video. From Mac, we can just do a which and a GH, and it'll actually show you where it's been installed. So I'm in opt homebrew bin GH. So that is the actual path to GH. You might notice that inside your VS Code, because a lot of times it's going to create in a virtual environment, you won't be able to get there. If you just type GH-version, it'll show you if you can get there from your directory. Now, I can, and there's a reason that I can, because on my Z shell or in my shell environment, I actually put that path there. And that can be a little confusing, also unnerving when you have to type all of that out just to get there. So real quick, I'm going to show you what my actual file looks like inside my MacBook Pro, and it's actually the Z profile. So if I do just a quick cat and then to my home directory, and the Z profile, if you've got a newer Mac on the newer operating systems, that's what you're looking at. I actually just did this export path, right? Opt homebrew bin path, and that allowed my GH to work without any problems. That's why from the local repo directory, when I did the version, GH version, it worked just fine. Okay, so if you're having that problem and you're on a Mac, on a Windows, you would want to add it to the same path as well on your path options. I'm not going to go into that in this particular video, but as long as on your system, when you do the GH, and on Windows, it would just be, say, help. As long as you get the output, then you know your GH works. And GH is just the command that we're going to be using for the CLI. Now, the next thing is you have to install, or not install, you have to authenticate to the GitHub to use the CLI tool. Now, we're already, if you've been following the videos and you use the GitHub desktop, which was already logged in, if you use those, you're already logged into GitHub. And we can tell that we're logged into GitHub because down here we have main, and you can see we're on the CLab demos, which means that we've authenticated. We've got our local stuff, but we also have to authenticate with GH. Okay, why are we using the GH command? Why can't we just start and run things? The reason is once we start with Codespaces, that's a cloud-based server. I mean, that you're running it from. And in order to do that, it's going to spin up different virtual environments. We need to be able to determine what those virtual environments actually are. That way we can connect directly to them. And I know it sounds a little confusing, but just stick with me. I'm going to walk you through all of this. But what we do need to do is make sure that we have GH connected to our GitHub account, because that's where we're going to run our Codespace. GitHub uses what we call MFA, or multi-factor authentication, when you're trying to log in from devices, whether it be your Mac, on the web page, and different things. So what you want to do on your iPhone or your Android, you actually want to install the GitHub app, because the GitHub app is the easiest way to do MFA, or multi-factor authentication, and it's pretty easy to find. If you'll just search for it on your, let me bring this up. If you'll just search for it, GitHub on the App Store, it's pretty easy to find with the GitHub Kitty there. I've already got it installed. I'm going to use it. I'll show you what it looks like on the camera when I pop up, but you are going to want to use some sort of MFA tool, and the GitHub app is the easiest way to log in to GitHub. So now that we've installed it, we've verified. If you're on a Mac, right, you can go which GH, it'll show you where it's at. You can do GH version, and it'll show you your version. Right? As long as you're 2 point something, as you can see, this one was last released on September 30th. Obviously 2025, 09030 here. That's what's telling us that. That's this version that I've just installed on my Mac. So you have to log in, and it's fairly self-explanatory. It's just GH, or the GitHub, and then we want to do the auth, and then we're going to do login. And it's it's very intuitive how it asks you to log in. We want to log into github.com because that's where our repos are. That's where we're going to run our code space from. And I just hit the enter key. We're going to do HTTPS is going to be the login. Okay. And then it says authenticate Git with your GitHub credentials. And I want to say yes, because that's how we're going to authenticate. If you did want to do SSH and you had some keys already set, then you could do it that way. But I'm just going to do it with my credentials. I'm going to log in with a browser. Okay. And then it just says press enter. So it's doing a lot of this for me. So when I hit enter, here comes my login. And it knows who I am, right? Todd H. Simmons. If not, I would have had to log in because we're already in our GitHubs, right? We started out this the very beginning of the series saying, we have to have a GitHub account. So I'm going to hit continue and it's going to say device activation. So if I come back to my VS Code, I'm just going to move this over here. Okay. You can see here's my one-time code. Obviously I'm showing you my code. I'm going to log out, log back in after this, but I can actually just copy this from the keyboard. Okay, and I can bring it here and just paste it in, and there's my code. Okay, I do a continue, and now it's going to say authorize GitHub for this particular account, and I'm going to authorize it. Now, to practice, I had done this before thinking it was going to come up on my GitHub app. It did not ask me to do the MFA this time on my GitHub app. If you had been asked that when you opened your GitHub app, it would have given you a screen prompt and just said, asked if it was you and to authorize it, and then it would be in. Now, my device is actually authenticated. Okay, so I can come and I can look and say GH auth status, and it says I'm now logged in to the GitHub account. It's my account here using HTTPS. It's got the token. Obviously, it's going to not show the token, and I have complete access at that particular point. So I've installed the GH CLI, and from the GH CLI, I'm now going to be able to interact from VS Code and into the code spaces that we're fixing to actually get done. Codespaces is where we're going to run all of this. And this is just kind of the setup. The great thing is you only have to do all this once. Once we have all this set up, it gets really, really easy. But this is the part, that we have to just to create the environment. We just have to make sure that we have all of the pieces and all of the parts. It's kind of a puzzle, but we're putting them all together at that particular point so we can do our Arista training. We can do our CEOS labs and practice and create these different environments in Codespaces. And there's just a few steps that we have to follow. So if you missed any of that, maybe just go back and watch it. If it didn't work quite right for you, definitely leave me comments. You'll see I answer all comments very, very quickly. Hopefully this all worked for you. You got GH installed. You now are in your local repository for the C-Lab demo that we've got. And now we're actually ready to start looking and creating code spaces at this particular point. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're ready. And until the next video, talk to y'all later, nerds. Bye.